Hare Krishna. So we will start our program with Chauragraganya Purushashtakam. Vraje prasitham navanita chauram Gopangananam chadukula chauram. Vraje prasitham navanita chauram Gopangananam chadukula chauram. Aneka janmarchita papa chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham namami. Aneka janmarchita papa chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham namami. Shiradhikaya hridayasya chauram Navambuda shamalakanti chauram. Shiradhikaya hridayasya chauram Navambuda shamalakanti chauram. Padashritanam cha samasta chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham namami. Padashritanam cha samasta chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham namami. Akinchani kritya padashritam ya karoti bhikshum mama gahinam. Akinchani kritya padashritam ya karoti bhikshum patigehahinam. Kenapyaho bhikshanachaurayidre drishtashritho va na jagatrayepi. Kenapyaho bhikshanachaurayidre drishtashritho va na jagatrayepi. Yadiyanamapi harati ashesham giriprasaranapi paparashim. Yadiyanamapi harati ashesham giriprasaranapi paparashim. Ashcharyarupo nanu chaurayidre drishtashruto va namaya kadapi. Ashcharyarupo nanu chaurayidre drishtashruto va namaya kadapi. Dhanam cha manam cha tathendriyani pranam cha hritva mama sarvameva. Dhanam cha manam cha tathendriyani pranam cha hritva mama sarvameva. Palayase putra dritodya chaura tvam bhaktidam nasi maya niruddha. Palayase putra dritodya chaura tvam bhaktidam nasi maya niruddha. Chinatsi ghoram yamapashabandham bhinatsi bhimam bhavapashabandham. Chinatsi ghoram yamapashabandham bhinatsi bhimam bhavapashabandham. Chinatsi sarvasya samastabandham naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. Chinatsi sarvasya samastabandham naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. Manmanase kamasarashi ghore karagrihe dukkhamaye nibaddha. Manmanase tamasarashi ghore karagrihe dukkhamaye nibaddha. Labhasva he chaura hare chiraya svachaurya dosho chitameva dandam. Labhasva he chaura hare chiraya svachaurya dosho chitameva dandam. कारागृहे वस सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्तिपाशदृढबन्धननिश्चलः सन् त्वां कृष्ण हे प्रलयकोटिशतान्तरेऽपि सर्वस्वचौरहृदयान् नहि मोचयामि। व्रजे प्रसिद्धं नवनीतचौरं गोपाङ्गनानां च दुकूलचौरम् अनेकजन्मार्जितपापचौरं चौराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे, राधा मदन मोहन राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव नित्याय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, नित्याय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल। थाई गौर प्रेमानंदी, हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna. So I welcome you all to our new series, the topic Draupadi. So we begin our session by recitation of prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 12. Parikshitoth rajarshir janma karma vilapanam samastham cha panduputranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. Parikshitoth rajarshir janma karma vilapanam samastham cha panduputranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम समस्थां च पांडुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्ण कथोदयम्. Translation. Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shaunaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Shri Krishna and the topics of the birth, activities and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that He personally incarnates Himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas and Mahabharata are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendently related with the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Purana, but the special significance of this Purana is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Srimad Bhagavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a spotless Purana. There is a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavad Purana who desire to relish at once the activities of the Lord narrated in the 10th canto without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and more foolishly than intelligently they take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specifically told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Krishna and his pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees like the Pandavas are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha, or topics of the Lord. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namaum Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I welcome you all to our session on Draupadi. So as we are reading the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, here is Srila Prabhupada's purport, where Prabhupada is explaining that Lord Krishna is the central person of all the Vedic literature. Vedaischa sarver ahameva vedyo. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to know and understand Krishna. So Srila Vyasadeva, having written the 4 Vedas, the 18 Puranas, the 108 Upanishads, and followed by the 2 Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and the commentary and the Vedanta Sutra, when he was feeling very despondent that he could not truly write the essence of all this, when he was not feeling fulfilled in his heart, that was when Narada Muni came and answered why he was feeling unfulfilled. And he told that you did not truly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as the central person. So that is when Srila Vedavyas has begun writing the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam. So, as we see Bhagavatam, we are reading here the 7th chapter. The first 6 chapters consist of the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, the setting the stage, how the sages of Naimisharanya come together, they're asking various questions, and when they sit together, and the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam is from the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. That's the very first scene that Srimad Bhagavatam describes. And what's the very first scene that Bhagavatam is describing? The first scene is about how Draupadi was crying. How Draupadi was crying at the death of her sons. This is the very first scene that Bhagavatam is speaking about. So, Draupadi is a Mahabhagavat devotee of the Lord. She was such a glorious devotee. She was known for her surrender to the Supreme Lord. She's ever celebrated. She had the strength of standing for Dharma amidst the most trying situations that anyone can ever imagine. She had granite will to execute the purpose of life. And she had an oceanic forgiveness in her heart, that she could forgive the most treacherous sin anybody could ever commit towards a person. So she was a combination of these glorious qualities. And it is our great fortune that today and for the next 2 to 3 sessions, we are discussing about the qualities of Draupadi and the various pastimes. So, here we are talking about how Srila Prabhupada is speaking about how Mahabharata and various Puranas are merely historical facts or stories if they were not to be centered around Krishna. So Mahabharata as such is, it's called Panchama Veda, the 5th Veda. It consists of 100,000 verses. And for example, Ramayana has 24,000 verses. The Srimad Bhagavatam has 18,000 verses. Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. Mahabharata, it is such a great compilation. It's such a great work written by Srila Vyasadeva. These 100,000 verses are celebrated for their poetic brilliance. Not just that, the amount of wisdom they carry, the kind of lessons they convey, it's tremendous. So, but then, when Mahabharata as such is not read or understood with Lord Krishna as a central person, there is a tendency to get diverted into the many details that the whole scripture presents, because it has so many amazing characters and descriptions of politics, of diplomacy, of statescraft. It's very interesting and enthusing way of presentation. And if one does not understand that the central person is Krishna and he is to be understood and glorified through all this, one misses out the purpose. So Vedavyas explains there are 7 basic and important themes of Mahabharata. What are the 7 important themes of Mahabharata? The first theme is the wickedness of the Kauravas, as we all know. The second, the virtue of the Pandavas. The third is the presence of mind of Vidura. The fourth is Gandhari's adherence to Dharma. The fifth is Queen Kunti's tolerance. Then sixth is the analysis of the Kuru dynasty. And seventh is Vasudevasya Mahatmyam. That is the glory of Vasudeva, Lord Shri Krishna. And of all these 7 themes, the most important theme is the 7th one, Vasudevasya Mahatmyam. You see, Mahabharata and Ramayana, these two are the greatest battles that were fought ever in the history of this world. And what were these two battles? These two battles were fought by Vaishnavas. These were the battles that were fought by Vaishnavas. Ramayana, who's a major, most prominent warrior? Hanuman. And Mahabharata, it was Arjuna. And these two are the greatest Vaishnavas. So from this it is to be understood, devotion is not something passive. It is a person's active expression of one's love for the Lord. It's the ability to do anything for the Lord, to live for the Lord and die for the Lord. This is devotion. And this is what scriptures like Ramayana and Mahabharata and of course Srimad Bhagavatam communicate. And even Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Vedes Ramayanes Chaiva Purane Bharate Tatha Ado Antye Cha Madhye Cha Harihi Sarvatra Giyate. So in Vedas and Puranas like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Ado Antye Cha Madhye Cha, in the beginning, in the middle and at the end, Harihi Sarvatra Giyate. All these scriptures only glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this is a very, very important concept that one should bear in mind. That's a purpose. And missing out the purpose distracts us. As we see, these days there are so many commentaries on Mahabharata and so many versions of epic Puranas like Ramayana and Mahabharata that people get so distracted and diverted by the details that they sideline Lord Krishna as the most important person. In fact, they present him as an ordinary person. And so in this way, the purpose of these Vedic study of these Vedic literatures is lost. So this is the most important theme that one should never forget in understanding the Puranas, the scriptures, and especially Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So, when Vedavyas has presented this Mahabharata, it was he dictated it, and Lord Ganesha has personally sat at his lotus feet and he wrote it in a written form. So, this Mahabharata actually happens as a conversation between Vaishampayana. Vaishampayana is a disciple of Vedavyas, and Janamejaya. Janamejaya is a son of Parikshit Maharaj. So this was a conversation between the two, Vaishampayana and Janamejaya. And Vedavyas was dictating it, and Lord Ganeshji was writing this. So when Vedavyas was dictating, Ganeshji said, I will write down whatever you say, but I have one request, that you should not stop when you are talking. If you stop, I will stop writing. Then Vedavyas, he said, okay, fine, agreed. But I have one request, that the moment that you don't understand what I am talking about, you will stop writing. So this was a kind of interaction between Vedavyas and Ganeshji, and with that beautiful cooperation and exchange, they have Vedavyas was narrating and Ganeshji was writing the transcendental Vedic literature, and it was specifically given in the written form because out of Vedavyas' unlimited compassion, knowing well that the people of the Kali Yuga are not very intelligent to understand Vedas through the oral reception. Originally the Vedas were orally recited and orally received. Orally, O-R-A-L-L-Y, orally recited, and orally, A-U-R-A-L-L-Y, orally received. This was how Vedic literature was transferred. There are very beautiful quotes of Srila Prabhupada regarding Mahabharata and Ramayana. Srila Prabhupada once said that history, learning, this is the Mahabharata is, Mahabharata, what is Mahabharata? Mahabharata means it is the history of the greater India. And India means it's not just the India that we know of today, which has so many borders. It was Bharatvarsha, that it's an entire planet. It was called Bharatvarsha. Earlier it was called Ilavrita. So, Prabhupada said that history is not about knowing a list of kings and the dates of their birth and then death. That is not history. How is it relevant? History is about knowing the episodes from our the Indian history, wherein the whole episode is relevant in our personal life. So that is what is actual history. So, but then, if you remember, all of us, what have we learned in history as a part of our education? I'm sure that we all learned that when was the period of the rule of Chandragupta, when was the period of rule of the Kakatiyas, the Cholas, the Pandyas. We just know the rule from when to when they have ruled. So, does it have any relevance to us today? I remember history was my most boring subject. I never liked it at all. But when I read Mahabharata or Srimad Bhagavatam, it's amazing, it's exciting, because it's so relevant to me. This is what education should be. Education should be relevant to our lives. And education should bring about a transformation of character, transformation of heart, betterment of character. It should help us understand the purpose of life, and it should help us understand more about ourselves. What is the reason of my existence? If education is not providing all this, then what is happening in the name of education is not really education. I remember when I was doing my internship, I went to my professor and I asked her, because I was almost nearing the completion of my education. So I was just pondering over some existential truths, and I went to my professor and I asked her, "Madam, what is the goal of life?" I don't know why I asked her, but I asked this question. And I still remember what was her answer. And it was a very unfortunate way that she answered me. She said, "Pallavi," my name was Pallavi. "Pallavi, whatever you wanted in life, you got it so easy. So that is why you're getting such questions." Can you imagine? That was her answer. That means what she meant was, if you are busy struggling for existence, then probably, all these kind of questions don't erupt. This is exactly what material education is doing to us. It is dumbing us down. It is not helping us to come out with genuine questions related to our existence, questions related to our purpose, questions related to what is the meaning of this whole universe, what is the meaning of this creation, what is the purpose of my existence. These are the questions, and when these questions come, that's when our life as human beings has really begun. That's why the aphorism begins with Athato Brahma Jigyasa. When you begin your questioning about the reason for existence, that's when your human life has begun. So Srila Prabhupada actually said that if I had time, I would have flooded the world with the stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata, because they're so relevant. And these are the historical facts with Lord Krishna as a central personality, which can actually bring about true auspiciousness to all lives. So with this we begin our next topic of Queen Draupadi. So before this we were discussing about the topic of Devyani and Sharmishta. Our whole theme was friendship. So Lord Krishna, it is said, there's a beautiful quote of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said that if you make friendship with Krishna, it will never break. If you accept Krishna as your master, you will never be cheated. Yeah? And if you consider Krishna your son, he will never die. And if you take Krishna, he's the best of all, and there will be no separation. This is Srila Prabhupada's quote. So we see in Bhagavad how Krishna has actually exemplified this in so many ways in his relationships. So he was really the perfect friend. We see in the whole pastime of Krishna and Sudama. Krishna and Sudama were childhood friends. They were besties. They were the best of friends at Gurukul. And then they grew up and they parted their ways. And Krishna went on to become the king of Dwarkadish. And Sudama, he remained a very poor Brahmana. But later, when they met together, when Sudama came to meet Lord Krishna, There's beautiful description in Bhagavatam how Krishna reciprocated the friendship of Sudama. He was not allowed to enter the premises of Dwaraka by the guards, and Krishna, seeing his friend being stopped there, he comes running from his palace. He embraces Sudama, takes him into his inner chambers of his palace, seats him on the bed, washes his feet and massages his feet, and actually with his teeth he removes the thorns that have pricked the feet of Sudama. And his queens, the majestic queens of Rukmini Devi, she was fanning Sudama, and he was hungry for that morsel of the handful of chipped rice that Sudama's wife has sent along with him. And he ate it all, and he just gave him back innumerable riches. And the whole night passed by sharing their whole pastimes of their friendship back in the Gurukul, and they had a lovely time. So this is how amazing friend. And Sudama went back home with a heart that is totally satisfied, satiated, fulfilled, with all ecstasy. That's how he returned. So this is how Krishna maintains his friendship. When Krishna, he didn't think that, who is this Brahmana? He's coming from the lower caste. I mean, he's coming from the lower rungs, economical status, though he was, poles apart. Exactly contrary to this kind of friendship we see in the example of Drupada and Drona. So Drona and Drupada were also the childhood friends. Who is Drupada? Drupada is none other than the father of Draupadi. So Drupada and Drona were childhood friends, and back at Bharadwaj Muni's ashram, they've learned together all the great arts of martial arts, etc. So when they were best of friends, in their friendship, Drupada once said that once I grow up and I get kingdom, I give you half of my kingdom. Whatever I have is yours, he said. And Drona really took it seriously. Oh, thank you so much. And then they grew up, and again they parted their ways. And Drona went back, and he remained a poor Brahmana. And he married, and he had a son. His son was Ashwathama. His wife was Kripi. And he was so poor that he never had enough sufficient amount of money or means to even provide for milk of Ashwathama. He used to mix water in the wheat flour and tell that this is milk, and he used to give it to Ashwathama. So he was so broken hearted. He was living in utter poverty. On the other hand, Drupada has become the king of Panchal. Panchal Desh it's a very huge territory. He had the kind of opulence which was envied by even the demigods. He was so rich and opulent a king. So Drona, being very fed up and frustrated of his poverty, he goes to Drupada. He goes to Drupada to actually remind him of the promise that he had given in the childhood. So when Drupada sees Drona, and in fact witnessing Drona actually asking him for half the kingdom as it was promised in the childhood, he didn't feel very comfortable about it. He said it's a childhood promise. That, he even in fact acted in a way that he did not even recognize who Drupada is. And he said, you're a Brahman, I can give you something as charity, you take it and be satisfied. And Drona became furious. He said that today you're so proud and arrogant because of the riches that you have, and I'm going to avenge for this behavior of yours. I will come, and my disciples will come and seize this kingdom, which is the reason of your pride and arrogance. And sure enough, Drona goes, and he trains all the Kuru dynasty princes, the 100 Kauravas and the 5 Pandavas. He trains them in excellent military arts, and his best disciple is none other than Arjuna. So, and after the period of training is over, Drona goes and asks the Pandavas for Guru Dakshina, and he asked, as Guru Dakshina, I would want that the king of Panchal Desh, Drupad, be defeated and brought to my feet alive. This is my Guru Dakshina. And Arjuna takes an oath that if I cannot do this, then I will cut off my head. And with such determination, the Kauravas and Pandavas, they go, and there's a major fight of these 105 princes and the whole army of Panchal along with Drupad. So during this fight, Drupada was defeated. He was really defeated in a very bad way, and especially by the Pandavas. During this fight, he could not but stop adoring the valor of Arjuna. His military prowess, his Kshatriya spirit, his courage, everything in his valor, everything bowled him over completely. And even after being defeated, he could not but stop thinking of Arjuna. At the same time, when Drona comes and he seizes his entire kingdom, and he says that I am not such a bad friend as you, Drupada. I take half the kingdom, I'll give you remaining half. You keep the remaining half with yourself. So Drupada, he accepts the half the kingdom and he goes back, but then in his heart he develops immense vengeance to get back to Drona. So and unfortunately Drupada at that time, he had no sons. He had only one daughter, Shikhandini. He had no sons. So fuming with this vengeance, he approaches various rishis to perform yajna to the devatas and invoke a son in his life, and invoke such a son who will be the cause of death of Drona. So sure enough, the Brahmanas come and they do perform this yajna for him by offering all their pious credits in return. So when this yajna was being performed, there were two predominant thoughts or feelings in the heart of Drupada. What were these two predominant feelings? The first was vengeance towards Drona, and the second is deep adoration for Arjuna. And with these two feelings, predominant feelings, he has performed the yajna. And from the yajna came two people. Who are these two? Drishtadyumna and Draupadi. So Drishtadyumna came from the fire, and his purpose and that he fulfilled in the later part of the life was he was the cause of death of Drona. And Draupadi, she has as Drupada had this predominant feeling of adoration for Arjuna, so Draupadi went on to get married to Arjuna. So this is a very important aspect of conception. Whatever predominant feelings and thoughts parents have at the time of conception, the children are born with the same propensities. This is very true. So from this yajna kund arose the great Draupadi. So Draupadi has come from yajna, and hence another name of Draupadi is also Yajnaseni. She was also called Draupadi because she's the daughter of Drupada. And she's also called Panchali because she is a queen of Panchal Desh. So she's a princess of Panchal Desh. So Draupadi had many names. So these are few of them. So as she came out from the fire, her heart was pure like fire. And she was compared to fire in many ways. And she had such exceptional beauty. And when she walked down, she had the complexion of, which was darkish. Hence she was also called Krishna. And she was kind of copper skinned. And it is described in Mahabharata that wherever she is, for few meters around her, she spread the fragrance of a blue lotus flower. So she was so beautiful, she was so attractive, she was so fragrant, and she was so fragile in her bodily limbs And she was exquisitely beautiful. And when she was walking down the the Yajna Kund, there was a celestial voice that came and there was a proclamation. The celestial voice said, "Here is Draupadi, and she, or her auspicious birth, will be instrumental in killing so many Kshatriyas, wiping out many Kshatriyas from the face of the earth." So, generally, Draupadi is a very famous name. The whole world knows, in every Indian born, they know something about Draupadi. And there's so many people who speak about her personality in many controversial ways. For example, there are some who say that the Kurukshetra war was fought because of Draupadi, because there is also a celestial voice that has proclaimed that she will be the cause of the death of so many Kshatriyas. So is it true that Draupadi is the cause of the Kurukshetra war? Not really. There is a literary way of understanding this. For example, I'll give a small example. There's a fight, there is an intense kind of fight between the Indians and Pakistanis over Kashmir. So is Kashmir the cause of the fight as such, or it was just an instrumental object? So it is an instrumental object. Similarly, Draupadi played an instrumental role, but as such she was not the cause for the Kurukshetra war. The cause for the Kurukshetra war is Duryodhana's adamance. He could never come down to terms despite so many efforts by even the Supreme Lord himself, who went as a messenger of peace. He denied even giving the Pandavas a small piece of land that could contain the tip of the needle. So his adamance, it is Duryodhana's evil nature and adamance that was the cause of the Kurukshetra war. It was not Draupadi as such. She was instrumental in the hands of the Supreme Lord for the establishment of Dharma. So that was Draupadi. So Draupadi, as she came out as a Kanya, as a grown-up girl. So soon, Drupad Maharaj has arranged for her Swayamvara. Swayamvara. What is Swayamvara? Swayam means self, and Vara is selecting the bridegroom by oneself, one's personal selection. So in Kshatriyas, this was a prevalent custom that they could choose their own groom. So the Swayamvara of Draupadi is a very, very important occasion for many reasons. This was a time when Lord Krishna has first met the Pandavas. So Drupad Maharaj had made huge arrangements for the Swayamvara of Draupadi. In fact, he has created a whole big stadium because he wanted to give the very best to his daughter. And in the heart of his hearts, he was really he had arranged for a contest that can be won only by the greatest of archer, the greatest of Yodha. That was a contest that he has configured. So because he was wanting to give his daughter only to Arjuna, there was a Muni, there was a saint, his name was Yaja. He made a prediction that Draupadi would get married to Arjuna. So he was all the more wanting that kind of a prophecy to be fulfilled because he was really in a mood of adoration towards Arjuna. So he has made these arrangements. There was a contest, and there were kings and emperors from different places who came to attend this contest because they all heard about the exquisite beauty of Draupadi. They all wanted her hand in marriage. So when kings like Shishupal, kings like Jarasandh, all of them have arrived. Even Rukmi, all of them have arrived for the Swayamvara. And even, of course, Duryodhana, Karna, they've all made their way to this great contest to win the hand of Draupadi. And also, interestingly, Lord Krishna and Balaram and along with the Yadu clan, also came to this contest, to this Swayamvara. So why did Krishna and Balaram come to Draupadi's Swayamvara? As such, Krishna had the relationship that he shared with Draupadi, in fact, he declared once that she is like his sister. They shared a very platonic relationship. And the kind of rasa was, Krishna used to call Draupadi Sakhi, and Draupadi called him Sakha. So he had no intentions, of course, of marrying Draupadi. But still, why did Krishna along with Balram come to Draupadi's Swayamvara? Because Krishna wanted to meet the Pandavas. Till now, Krishna has never met Pandavas before. There is no mention of it in Mahabharata. In fact, Bhagavatam tells there were 2 instances where Krishna was trying to keep in touch with Pandavas. So after Krishna came and defeated Kamsa, and after some time, he actually sends a letter through Akrura to Hastinapur, trying to understand the whereabouts on how the Pandavas are doing. He will in fact sent a message to Dhritarashtra saying that do not be partial to the sons of to your own sons, and give equal treatment also to the sons of Pandus, because he's been hearing about the atrocities that the Kauravas have been performing, the evil-minded Duryodhana and the kind of evil plots that he's been hatching. He was aware of all that. So he kind of, as a cousin, he was trying to keep in touch, and he was trying to advise Dhritarashtra. This was one instance where there was Krishna trying to be in active touch with Pandavas. And also there was another instance where after Krishna moved to Dwaraka, there was this rumor that spread all around that Pandavas have actually died in the Varnavrat. When the whole Lakshya Griha, the house of lac, was burnt in the fire, there was a room, and the Pandavas were not seen again. So everybody came to the conclusion that the Pandavas along with Kunti Maharani have died. And Kunti Maharani did not want to show up again because she didn't want to get back into the association of Duryodhana and all of them, because it is a danger every moment. So she chose to remain incognito with all her sons. So at that time, Krishna and Balaram have come to Hastinapur to mourn along with Bhishma, Drona, then with Vidura and Dhritarashtra and all of them, telling them we are sorry that Pandavas are no more. But in the heart of the heart, Krishna knew that the Pandavas are alive indeed somewhere, and he was just waiting for the opportunity to catch up with them. So the Swayamvara of Draupadi was that instance where Krishna was eagerly looking forward to come and catch up with the Pandavas. So on the other hand, what happened to the Pandavas was that after the Varnavrat incident where the whole Lakshya Griha got burnt, they came out and through a tunnel, and they escaped, and they started living in the jungles, and they dressed themselves as Brahmanas, mendicants, and they traveled all over, and they went to from the place of Varnavrat, they went to a place, and then from there they went to Ekachakra. Ekachakra is the place where Lord Nityananda has taken birth, and also it's a place where Bhima killed the demon Bakasura. So from Ekachakra, they were on their way to Naimisharanya, and when they were going on their way to Naimisharanya, Vedavyas meets them much before and tells them, on your way to Naimisharanya, do stop at Kampilya. Kampilya is the capital city of Drupada's kingdom. Stop by at Kampilya. They say, okay, fine, we will do that. So that is how the Pandavas, after crossing over Ekachakra, they come to Kampilya, and at Kampilya they stay at a potter's house, and they're still in the garb of the Brahmanas. So the potter also sees them, and he invites them to stay with him. But they are so well built, like Kshatriyas. And he was thinking that very extraordinary Brahmanas. So that's how the Pandavas have come to Kampilya, and all of a sudden, all the Brahmanas of the Kampilya, they'll be going to the Swayamvara contest that Drupada has arranged. And in fact, they all they meet up with the Pandavas, and they say, please, you also come along with us. They were very fascinated to see these 5 Brahmanas who were so well built. So they invite them to please come, let us go to the Swayamvara. And it's an event that is much awaited. So the Pandavas say, fine, let us go. And they go. And Kunti Maharani prefers to stay back in the potter's house, saying that, my dear children, you please go and get the alms, that is Bhiksha. I will wait for you here. So the Pandavas start off and they go to the Swayamvara of Draupadi. And so what was this contest all about? This contest was a very tough contest. The contest is that Drupada arranges for a big arrangement wherein there was a fish that was revolving round and round, and the archer has to see the reflection of the fish in the water, and he should shoot the eye of the fish that was revolving above. That was a contest, and this was a contest which no ordinary person can win. And even before aiming for the fish, one has to do that with the bow that has been placed. And what was that bow? It was so heavy to even lift. An ordinary person cannot lift. The bow has to be lifted and it has to be strung, and then you have to aim and then shoot. It was a very tough task. Many kings couldn't even make it to even lift the bow. And some extraordinarily Herculean macho men like Jarasandha, he came in, he lifted the bow, and when he tried to string the bow, it was so difficult that the string, it boomeranged back and bang, he fell at many kilometers away. So it was so tough a task. Only Duryodhan came in, and before Duryodhana, Karna came in to try his luck. And when Karna came, Draupadi expressed her veto of choice. I do not wish to marry the son of a charioteer, so he may not as well participate in the contest. So Karna was taken aback, he felt very humiliated, insulted, and he went back and he sat down. Then Duryodhana came in, and Duryodhana came and he could lift the bow, he strung the bow, and he aimed at the target, but he missed the target. So days passed by in this way, and there was no result for the contest. And Drishtadryumna, he said, he made an announcement. Is there nobody who can win this contest? Is there nobody who can try anymore? So is there nobody who is a great Yodha who can win this contest? So when he was making this announcement, Krishna and Balram were looking at each other. So from a far distance, they saw the 5 Pandavas coming. So when they saw these 5 Pandavas coming in the garb of Brahmanas, Krishna just looked at him and looked at them, and he looked at Balaram. So they had this kind of doubt, maybe these are the Pandavas. Then all the Pandavas walked in and they heard Drishtadymna make this announcement that is there no one. So that was when Arjuna walked in. Arjuna stood up. So when Arjuna stood up, there was an uproar among the whole Brahmana community. They were like, wow, somebody from the Brahmanas representing us. In fact, they took out their upper cloth and they start waving it, cheering Arjuna. And some of them were like doubtful. None of the Kshatriyas could win. So what can a Brahmana do in this contest? They were trying to discourage him. So there was a mixed feeling in the whole Brahmana crowd. So and then it was a welcome trial by Arjuna in the Brahmana Vesh, because it would be an Anulom Vivaha. That is, in those days, Anulom is a desirable marriage. A Brahmana could marry a Kshatriya girl, and of course a Kshatriya can marry a Kshatriya girl. But a Kshatriya marrying a Brahmana girl would be a Pratilom marriage, which we discussed last time in the Devyani and Sharmishta. So when Arjuna got up, so all the Brahmanas were cheering up because it was a desirable marriage. And Arjuna went up, and as he went towards the bow. He circumambulated the bow, and then he held the bow. He offered his respects to the bow. He picked up the bow. He strung the bow, and then he aimed, and then he finally shot the arrow. And lo and behold, when he shot the arrow, he hit straight to the target. And there was such an uproar amongst the entire audience. The Brahmanas were so jubilant, they were celebrating the victory of Arjuna. But what was happening at the end of the Kshatriya kings who came for the Swayamvara? They were disgusted, they were frustrated, they were angered, they became very violent. They couldn't digest this. A normal Brahmana coming and defeating us, all of us. This is unacceptable. Who is this person? And Drupada, what is this contest that he's arranging? And saying this, all the Kshatriyas, they pull up the Kshatriya and they start, trying to come in front to attack Drupada. Drupada was taken aback. I have arranged for a contest for my daughter Draupadi, and here is a person who has come and who rightfully won. And why are these people attacking? So when this whole thing was happening, Yudhishthir Maharaj was sitting there and seeing the whole thing. Meanwhile, Arjuna takes the hand of Draupadi and he quickly tries to take her out of the stadium. But at this time, Yudhishthira, watching the whole thing that's happening, he looks at Bhima and Arjuna and makes a sign, gives and signals them. Because Yudhishthira was sensitive that here is my new father-in-law and he's being attacked. How can he leave? How can we all leave him in this danger and go away? So he gives a signal to Arjuna and Bhima. So Arjuna and Bhima then come into the forefront. They walk down all the way and they stand in between Drupada and all the Kshatriya kings. And Arjuna stands right in front of Drupada. And when Karna starts shooting arrows at Drupada, Arjuna picks up a bow of one of the soldier there and he starts countering all the arrows that were shot by Karna. And Karna gets amazed. What is this? Somebody can counter the arrows that I am shooting? Who could this be? And he becomes very doubtful. Who can counter my skill? And then he starts speculating and starts thinking maybe this is what is Brahma Tejas. At that time he was reminded of two personalities. Who were the two personalities Karna was reminded of? One was sage Vasishta and one was Parshuram. Why sage Vasishta? Vasishta was a great Brahmana and he had a Kamadhenu cow. And Vishwamitra wanted that Kamadhenu cow, and for which he tried to attack Vasishta with innumerable soldiers. And Vasishta, how did he counter Vishwamitra? He just did a hunkar. He just did and just with that all the soldiers of Vishwamitra died. Then Vishwamitra was bewildered. What is the use of all my Kshatriya skills that one hunkar of a Brahmana can counter all the soldiers and kill all of them? So there is no use of being a Kshatriya. I should become a Brahmana. Then he went ahead to perform severe austerities for the same. So this was when the Kshatriyas lost to the Brahmanas. And there's another example of Parshuram. He was a Brahmana himself and he took the role of a Kshatriya and he finished all the Kshatriyas for multiple times. He wiped away Kshatriyas from the face of the earth for multiple times. So this was the power of a Brahmana. So Karna, at this instance, he was reminded of these two personalities. The Brahma Tejas can defeat the Kshatriya valor. He stepped back. And on the other hand, what's happening? There was also Shalya. Shalya is the uncle of Nakula and Sahadeva. He's the brother of Madri. So he also came for the Swayamvara. And he started attacking. He was a great warrior. Nobody could confront him. So Shalya was fighting and Bhima confronted Shalya. And how did Bhima confront Shalya? They were not carrying any weapons. So he went and he uprooted a tree a big tree, a sar tree. A sar tree is a huge tree. It's not like the banana tree or anything so small. It's a huge tree. He uprooted the sar tree, and with that he attacked Shalya. Now Krishna and Balaram understood who the Pandavas are, because they knew very well who could counter Karna. Only two people. That is, one is Drona and the other is Arjuna. And who could counter Shalya? Only two. It is either Bhima or Balaram. So that's how they came to the conclusion that these are indeed the Pandavas. It could not be anyone else who can fight so valiantly. So having understood this, Krishna and Balaram, they smiled at each other, and then Krishna came in. Till now, Krishna and Balaram were totally aloof from the whole picture. They were just watching what's happening. And then when they, after they have concluded who these people are, Krishna came in, walked in, and with his sweet diplomatic voice, he pacified everybody. He said, "It is, my dear Kshatriyas, why are you fighting? So, you see, this Brahmana has won the hand of Draupadi in a very rightful way by winning the contest. So, you should not be offended by these and fight this way." And so, he pacified the whole thing with his sweet diplomatic voice and the way he spoke. So, everybody settled down, and quickly Arjuna took Draupadi and they left the place and they went back to the potter's house. And what happened at the potter's house? Mother Kunti, she was waiting. She was eagerly awaiting the return of her sons. So Arjuna taking Draupadi, and along with the 5 Pandavas, they went back home. And before entering the house, Arjuna said, "Mother, see what I have received in Bhiksha." So Kunti, she was busy in her work. So she didn't see exactly what was happening there, and she was busy in her work. And when she heard that her son saying, "See what I have received in my Bhiksha," she said, "Whatever you have received, share it amongst yourselves." And there was such silence. This is a very, very important scene. Let us understand from the light of Bhagavad Mahabharata what actually was happening at this moment, because there was a lot of concoctions about what has happened here in different ways. Mahabharata is presented either in the television serials or in the books, etc. But what actually happened is this. So when the moment Kunti said that way, she turned back and she saw that in Bhiksha what actually he has received is not some alms, but the bride, Draupadi herself. So what was her reaction? The moment she said that, she said, "How could such a word come from me?" Because Kunti never spoke anything that could ever be a lie. That was the greatness of her character. So when this word came from me, how could it possibly be untrue? That's what she thought. That was the purity of her character. And when she uttered this, Yudhishthir Maharaj, he felt that there is nothing adharmic about what my mother said. In his heart, he did not feel that there is anything adharmic about this. And because he did not have any sense of a feeling of adharma in this, he thought that it is meant to be this way. Because Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was Dharmajna, he is Sakshat Dharmaraj. And in his heart, if he felt that it is not adharmic, finish, that's it. None of us can imitate Dharmaraj or Yudhishthir Maharaj. But this was the glory of the character of the Pandavas. So because he did not feel that there is nothing adharmic about this, it was meant to be. And what was Draupadi's reaction? When Draupadi heard this, she did not feel any aversion in her heart. Why she did not feel any aversion in her heart? It was because it is coming from her past life. So her past life, I will tell you the story later. She had received certain benediction, and it has become an intrinsic part of her that it is bound to happen this way. So that's the reason in her heart she did not feel any aversion to this decision. But still, for for the way it has to be projected to the audience, there was still a discussion, how could this happen? Because polygamy is heard of, that a male can or a king can marry innumerable wives, but polyandry, it is something not heard of very much, that a girl marrying more than one husband. So when this whole discussion was going on, what to do, Vyasadeva comes into the picture to resolve this whole conflict. And he explains that indeed, do not worry about what has happened, continue this way. And in fact, there are examples in the Shastras where one woman has married many husbands, like the Prachetas. The 10 Prachetas have married one lady. It did happen in the past, and it is a dharmic marriage. So, and while this conversation was going on, Krishna and Balaram, they followed the Pandavas from the stadium of Drupada to the potter's house. And this potter, he felt that there are some guests awaiting outside. He went out to see who they are. And there is Krishna Balaram who came to see the Pandavas. Imagine the potter's fortune. The Pandavas are staying with him. Krishna Balaram have entered his house and they wanted to meet the Pandavas. So he escorted them inside and he told the Pandavas, there are 2 guests, special guests who have come to see you. And Krishna comes and he introduces himself. I am Vasudeva Krishna. And here is Balaram. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj was so pleased and so excited seeing Krishna, and Krishna actually goes and touches the feet of Yudhishthir Maharaj because he was elder to him, and also the feet of Bhima because Bhima and Yudhishthir were elder to him. And he embraces Arjuna because Arjuna was just few days, I think 46 days elder to Krishna. I mean, Krishna was 46 days elder than Arjuna. So Krishna comes and embraces Arjuna, and Nakula and Sahadev come and touch the feet of Lord Krishna. So in this way, there was an amazing exchange between the Pandavas and Krishna. And so Yudhishthira Maharaj asks Krishna, how did you recognize us? So Krishna tells that just by containing light in the vessel, the effulgence of the light is not cancelled. Light is always light. It emanates light. So, and he said, looking at Bhima, so when Bhima uprooted that sour tree, I confirmed that it can be none other than Bhima himself who can do such feats. And when I saw Arjuna countering the arrows of Karna, we were pretty much sure that these can be none other than Bhima and Arjuna. So that's how we concluded. So there were a lot of joy, and in fact this is the first meeting of Pandavas and Lord Krishna. And Krishna wanted this meeting to happen because in future so much more is about to come about. So he wanted to make that bond stronger. So saying this, Krishna and Balaram move out. They go out of the house of the potters, go out of the potter's house. Meanwhile, Queen Kunti, she keeps instructing Draupadi about how to handle this relationship of marrying 5 husbands, how to serve them, how to cook for them. And she even gives details that, whenever you cook the first meal, you have to give it to the mendicants, and whatever is the remaining portion, make it into 2 halves. 1 half give it to Bhima. The remaining half, all of us will honor. She gave, entire analysis of how to serve the Pandavas. And as this conversation was happening, another personality came in. Who is that person? Drishtadyumna. So Drishtadyumna was also very curious to know, who are these people who won the hand of my beloved sister. Let me go and see. And as he was coming in, he saw Krishna and Balaram walking out of Potter's house. And he was wondering, who are these people that the Yadu chieftains, Lord Krishna himself and Balaram have come to meet? These might be very special people. Let me go in and see who they are. So Drishtadyumna walks in and he comes and sees. And he sees the whole scenario, what's happening, the conversation happening between Draupadi, Kunti, and he overhears all the Pandavas discussing some Kshatriya related stuff. So then he understands these cannot be Brahmanas. Then if they are Brahmanas, why they are talking about warfare and the war, etc., just like the Kshatriyas do. So then he comes to understand that these are none other than the Pandavas. So with a lot of happiness in his heart, he goes back to Drupada and he tells Drupada that these are the person who actually won the heart of your daughter is none other than Arjuna. And Drupada was extremely happy and he was eagerly waiting for this moment of making alliance with Arjuna. At that time, the whole the Kshatriya progress or the Kshatriya's success is dependent on making the right political allies. So he was very happy for this kind of a marriage that has taken place. But then when he heard that actually it is not just Arjuna alone, but his daughter is going to marry all the 5 Pandavas, he was really taken aback. That how can this happen? He couldn't digest it. So at that time, that's when even Vyasadeva again makes an entry and explains him about what the whole thing is about. He explains him about what was the previous birth of Draupadi. So since this is Purushottam Mas, I will just quickly explain about this story. He told, my dear Drupada, do not worry. In the previous birth, your daughter Draupadi was the daughter of a sage named Medhavi. So Medhavi was such a great saint. He was a sage that he was always so absorbed in his sadhana that he neglected his worldly duty of getting his daughter married at the right age. Because of which his daughter remained unmarried for a long, long time. And she saw all her friends getting married, but she never could marry a suitable groom in her life. And having neglected the marriage, he was so absorbed in sadhana that he left his body without getting his daughter married. And the sage happened to be a very good friend of Durvasa Muni. So hearing of his friend's death, Durvasa Muni comes to the house of sage Medhavi and he tells his daughter, my dear daughter of Medhavi, please do not worry. I will take care of you. And Durvasa Muni, he's an expansion of Lord Shiva. So he's easily pleased. He had a very compassionate heart. At the same time, he could easily get angry. So this was the nature of Durvasa Muni, as we all know. So Draupadi asks Durvasa Muni, my dear Rishi, please give me tell me a way out. All my friends have got married. They're all happily settled. But look at my situation and my life. I haven't got married and there is no prosperity in my life. How do I handle this situation? So Durvasa Muni, out of compassion and love for the daughter of his friend, he said, Draupadi, he told his friend's daughter, my dear child, listen to me carefully. Coming up in few days is the Purushottam Mas. So Purushottam Mas, during this time, you render very heartful worship to the Supreme Lord, please Him, and all your heart's desires will be fulfilled. And you will attain the greatest prosperity and happiness in this life and the next, and for eternity. And when Draupadi heard this, she mocked at Durvasa Muni. Purushottam Mas, you mean the Malla Mas that is going to come, the Adhik Mas? The Malla Mas is such a inauspicious month that none of your endeavors are fulfilled. So why are you asking me to do all these austerities and worship in this Malla Mas? And she speaks in a very offensive way. And this is not the way anybody would dare to talk to Durvasa Muni. Now, he was easily angered. He was really furious when he heard this. Still, he controls his anger. I will forgive you, my dear child, for the offense that you have committed towards me. Okay, because you are my friend's daughter. But because you have offended the month of Purushottam Mas, you will have to pay the price for it. You will be cursed and you will be devoid of any prosperity for the rest of your life. And she was taken aback. Oh my God, what did I just do? And she was cursed so badly. And in desperacy, she takes the shelter of Lord Shiva. And she performs tapasya for 9,000 long years. And finally, Lord Shiva appears. And he asks her, "My dear child, what do you want?" And she says, and she was so desperate about what she wanted that the moment she had the darshan of Lord Shiva, she couldn't contain her eagerness. That she went and asked him, "Lord Shiva, I want a husband. I want a husband. I want a husband. I want a husband." She asked 5 times in a very uncontrollable eagerness. And Lord Shiva actually blesses her. Tathastu, 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 tathastu. He blesses her 5 times. And he says, "You asked me for 5 times for a husband, so you will have 5 husbands." And she was like, "What is this? I did not ask for 5 husbands. Please, how can any girl have 5 husbands?" It's elections. You have asked me. I have bestowed that benediction upon you, and all the Panchabhutas are the witness for it. Now I cannot take back my benediction. But one thing I can do, I can postpone it for the next life. In the next life, you will have 5 husbands. So this is how Draupadi has received this benediction from Lord Shiva, that she will have 5 husbands in her previous life. That is why when Queen Kunti said that, whatever you have, share it amongst all 5 of you, she did not have any aversion in her heart because of the previous impression that she had from her past lives. So even in our own lives, our sense of discrimination of what is good or bad, it comes so much because of what our conditioning was in the past lives. Some people think, like for example, meat eating. Some people think that it's so bad. It's the most horrible thing that you can ever do. But some people are okay about it. What's so bad about it? It's natural. It's just we are eating food. They don't even feel the pain or compassion for the animals. Why it is that it comes in that way? Because it's coming from past lives. So that's how Draupadi had this benediction in the past life, which came to the next life, and so she was blessed in this way. She had 5 husbands. So Drupada was okayed the whole thing, and they got married, and the Pandavas and Draupadi went back to Hastinapur. So and many episodes happen, and from Hastinapur they go to Indraprastha. They go to Khandavaprastha, because there was a division of the whole Hastinapur by Bhishma Dev to bring about harmony between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, because Duryodhana was, he was always in the mood of hatching some evil plans to destroy the Pandavas. So to bring about some peace between these 2 brothers, Bhishma had resorted to dividing the kingdom of Hastinapur into 2, and he gave the fertile land of Hastinapur to the Kauravas, and the whole barren land of Khandavaprastha to Pandavas. So the Pandavas, with their have taken over that land, and a lot of pastimes happen, because of which they'll receive benediction from Indradev, and the whole Khandavaprastha becomes a flourishing community with a beautiful palace that was built by none other than Vishwakarma, who is a chief architect of Indra himself. The whole place becomes what was named as Indraprastha. So Indraprastha, the whole Rajasuya sacrifice was organized, it was performed, and after this sacrifice, there's a beautiful pastime that happens between Krishna and Draupadi. So Draupadi actually adores Lord Krishna and worships him in the mood of a friend. So when Krishna comes to the Rajasuya sacrifice, post this, Krishna was kind of cutting a fruit, and his fingers get cut in the process, and he was bleeding, and everybody was like, "Oh Krishna, what happened to your finger?" When everybody was even in the mood of being taken aback and pain, Draupadi immediately took out a major portion of her sari. She tore from that very expensive sari, and she ties that around the finger of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna was so pleased by this act of Draupadi. So this is what actually matters to Krishna, the offering of love of his devotee. We were just reading in Chaurashtakam, Chauragraganya Purushashtakam, that Krishna Chinatsi sarvam samasta bandham. Chinatsi sarvasya samasta bandham. Krishna, he is able to cut away all the bondages of material existence. Naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. But he himself cannot break the bond that is created between him and his devotee. He cannot break the bond of love that his devotee ties him. He cannot cut the rope of love that binds him with devotion. So here is Draupadi, who has, bound the finger of Lord Krishna, and in the process she bound him with her love. And Krishna felt so obliged to Draupadi for this act of her love that he said, "My dear Draupadi, I can never repay you for what you have done to me, but when the time comes, I will reciprocate to this love of yours." And saying this, so I think we are exceeding time. How Krishna has reciprocated, and what are the next important scene and grave scenarios that come and happen in the life of Draupadi, we will see it in the next week. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.